Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning, everybody. Happy
Hello.
Wednesday.
White Hat Wednesday, we do it again.
Exactly. We are really happy to have you all here. And oh my goodness. We've been like in this really big creative build mode, and sometimes our brains just do not shut off. So it's been a really great last couple of days with
Intense.
And I woke up this morning and it's like, this is like the third day in a row that I wake up and it's like, Jim is not in bed
Yeah.
in the middle of the night or whatever. And so yeah,
That's not about work stuff. That's just like
I can't
insomnia.
sleep,
So
insomnia.
I'm working
I'm like,
because
am I
I'm
snoring?
awake.
What is the matter here?
Right.
But I know that I woke up like this morning about a couple minutes before 6 and you were still asleep. And so I started coffee. I'm like 3 cups in so far, people. So we're probably gonna be a little bit jittery here. And then I just like my brain kicked right on and I am mapping things out that we've got on our roadmap and just having, it's like
Michelle has learned my pattern or behaviors enough that she knows that she has to wait until I've had a certain amount of coffee before she can start hitting me with the stuff. She's like, all this stuff built up, but she knows I can't even go there.
So this morning when you finally woke up, I was like, okay, I got a couple things I want to talk to you about. You let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
And so he got into about half of his first cup of coffee and he goes, he starts in on like a topic about work. And I looked at him and I said, are you ready to talk about work? Because I got stuff too. And he's like, I was ready to pounce. And he's like, I need to finish this cup first.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, then let's put a pin in it. And then, then we just started in on what are the
now
things?
You got a little insight into our mornings around here. So that's the way our day starts. So yeah, we do talk a lot of work, but we're just in this great build mode, all this fun stuff happening. And so we're just, it's energizing.
We've got like this beautiful team. We had a team meeting last night and we both got off the call with our CEO and our COO and our, marketing director. And we both looked at each other after this. It's like, oh my gosh, we've got such a great team.
Yeah.
This is so exciting.
They're
good things coming.
Yep.
One of those good things is
Town Hall.
Buy Here, Pay Here Town Hall being hosted by our friend
and 30-year dealer.
Mr. Tommy Brandis in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. If you have not already put it on your calendar, save the date. It's October 19th. We will be doing that Buy Here, Pay Here Town Hall. The Buy Here, Pay Here Town Hall as well is going to be broadcast live on the BHPH Nation TV station. And we will be broadcasting that live in the Success Group. So you'll be able to watch it there. And then we're also going to have it in BHPH Nation.
And you're saying, what BHPH Nation TV station? Just go to bhphnation.com, register there. We'll let you know as it all
and
comes together.
it shows on the roadmap that this is something that we're going to be doing. So this is going to be a soft launch of the Nation TV. So we're really looking forward to that.
And this agenda is just...
It's coming together. It's looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be uncommonly good. Delicious. I'll go with delicious. It's going to be.
I didn't know that can content be delicious?
It will be. Yeah.
You let me know if that's absolutely
And I'm not one to oversell, am I?
Never.
So this is really strong.
Do you want to talk about that? Nope. Okay.
No. So we want to talk about something that it came up in one of our recent client visits, and we're going as old school and fundamental as it gets. And the reality is it applies today in the same way that it applied when I was introduced to the concept back in 1997 is when I figured out that. So I got to credit Rick Reeves. I went to training with Rick Reeves' company back then.
Tommy knows you from those days as well.
And Tommy was already managing, I think, their dealership back in those days. Anyway, he so he knows this whole concept around doing a mechanics check is something that I want to introduce our audience to, because we talked about it recently with a client, and you can just see that it takes them a little bit to make that shift and understand the difference about what's happening there. But there's such an important shift that happens with the customer.
Yes.
And in this case, we saw the dealers kind of struggle to grasp the concept. And so for that reason, I want to kind of talk about this in expanded form. Like, we may go a little over our target of 30 minutes
Okay,
here this
yeah.
morning, because, yep, it's just important that we cover it thoroughly.
And we may have like a follow-up, something that we'll
Yeah.
do, maybe not on the morning show, but to give those of you who are dealers that are like, hey, this is cool, we may have something that we follow up with at a later date. But
Yeah. And
this is
so,
just to introduce you to the idea and the
Sure.
benefits of the idea and get the ball rolling.
Sure. So Tyler Simmons, chimed in. I kind of intentionally made the title a little provocative by saying, are we knowingly selling problem cars to customers? And sometimes it's not so much that we know, it's more the question of, does the customer perceive that we know? Like, if they've got a problem with a car within days or the first few weeks, what is their perception of us as the dealer? Do they perceive that we pull the wool over their eyes, sent them
Sold
home,
them a
doctored up a
lemon,
car, put them
all
in a
of
car
those
that's got a
things.
problem? So it doesn't matter almost whether we did or did not know that there was a problem with the car. It's what is the customer's perception. And I've said, and keep in mind, I was in the retail and sporting goods business before I was ever in the car business. And all my retail experience, even back then, I developed the attitude that, when it comes to customer service, perception is reality. If they perceive that it's a problem, or they perceive something as an issue, then it's an issue. And we know in buy here, pay here, if there's a problem on the other side of delivery, it pretty much everything becomes our problem too.
And I was thinking, some dealerships have in their how they do business that if something happens within the next day or two, then
Right.
you can bring it back, and that is a form of goodwill as well.
Sure.
But doing this mechanics check prior to that is like, even when you have that, you can bring it back. That some people may have the notion that you knowingly sold me something, even if they have the ability to bring it back.
Yeah. And so I think when we first started talking about this, when Michelle first heard me start to introduce this concept, because we still believe in the validity of that thing. And by the way, I don't know that Tommy was in the room, but years ago at a conference, at one of Rick Reeves' conferences, they had a best idea contest. And as a manager back in Oklahoma in those days, I brought my best idea, which was to take the mechanics check that we had learned to do, and I created a form around it, because I was getting frustrated that the customer would go and do the mechanics check, but there was no evidence of it. Like, we didn't have any kind of, anything that would button it up.
Yeah.
And so I created a form that they could take to the mechanics. And so we have that.
So let's talk about, like, what is a mechanics check?
Okay.
Where it falls into, we suggest it falls into the flow of the process, the sales process.
Yep.
And then, how maybe we can just talk a little bit, just briefly, about maybe overcoming a few objections.
Sure. So first of all, we would always use the phrase independent mechanics check. Like, the word independent is critical there. It's like, we don't, it's not that you take it back to our shop or to the shop that's our neighbor or our friend and have them check it out, because that doesn't accomplish the thing. It's like, we're trying to create a strong level of goodwill where the customer can take the car and have it independently inspected.
Can we talk about where in the sales process? Let's start with this, though. Where in the sales process that we suggest this take place?
Well, so first, let me say where we first introduce it. So early in the sales process, we would introduce the concept. Like, as you've seen us, what we recommend in the sales process. We bring a customer in the building when they first come inside, and we offer them a drink, whatever. Then we take them to a poster, which we recommend. We've shared some of the posters that we've done for dealers out there on Facebook. And we ask our dealers to inform the customer from the very beginning.
The salesperson, that they have the salesperson do this
as a demonstration of goodwill to help the customer feel more comfortable, understand that around here, we're going to have you take the car. We're going to offer you the opportunity to have the vehicle independently inspected. Now you hear at the end that we go beyond just offering the opportunity. I all but require.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, and this poster is what we call how we do business.
Mhm.
And so it's like, this is how we do business. And it's usually, 4 or 5 or 8 different bullet points. It can have things like we offer, or you'll have the opportunity to do an independent mechanics
And
check.
some of you are thinking, oh, this is great for as is, but I'm
Oh.
not worried about it with my warranty. And I'm going to tell you that you're going to want to stay tuned, because I think even when a warranty, this can make a lot of sense, and it can create that level of goodwill that is still needed even when there's a warranty present. So, so just be aware that there's more than one way to get to this place, but I know of no other way to create that goodwill than to go through this step of requiring the independent inspection.
Okay. So they're on the lot. Salesperson brings them into the building, shows them the poster, which is the first time that they're hearing about this independent mechanics check.
Right.
In our sales process, when is the next time that they hear about this?
Right before the test drive, because in the test drive sheet that we would recommend, it's like a little simple questionnaire. We ask several questions, kind of disqualifying questions around bankruptcy and this and that. And then when the customer goes on this test drive, one of the things we say to them basically, or we ask them, have you been informed of the opportunity to have the vehicle independently inspected before you buy it? And we ask them yes or no, because that's our opportunity to say to them, now during the test drive is not the time to take the car to get that mechanics check. We're going to give you a chance to do that before you sign the contract, but right now is not the time, because we don't want to disappear and do that. Partly because we want to make sure and send the form with them.
We want to make sure first that this is the car that you want to land on.
Of course. So if we're not really clear about that, a lot of times customers will disappear in the car for an hour and a half, and I wanted to go find my cousin Eddie and get him to check the car for me, and that's just not what we wanted to do at that time. And so we kind of reinforce it at that point in time, and then they won't hear about it again until it's kind of in a pre-approval status, where we're kind of prepared to move ahead with contracting. Everything looks favorable, and we're prepared to move forward. That's when we would.
Okay, so you've got in the sales process, they've landed on a car, they've taken it for a test drive. We've done, they've turned in all of their steps. That you've already determined what your price, or what the payment's going to look like for them, what the down payment's going to be. And so you're about ready to step into, like in a lot of places, like the final underwriting.
Yep.
And so that's the time that we suggest that you say, okay, while we're doing this is going to take us about a half an hour or something to get everything put together. This is where your underwriting is going to be verifying all of the steps. This is when your underwriting is going to be, getting all the paperwork ready to go and just everything ready to push that print button on booking a deal.
Right.
And so you say, at this point, we've got this is going to take us a little bit of time to get this done. So here is what we need you to do while we're getting this done.
Right. And so this is the part that kind of has to be expanded, because there's, people are going to hear this and they're going to think it's the same thing we hear from dealers and managers. Yeah, we've been trying to do it, but we can't seem to get the customers to take the car for the mechanics check. So listen carefully to the phrasing that I'm going to suggest to you. And then maybe think on the other side of this, what does that do to goodwill? Okay. So when I say, and I'm just going to role play it like Michelle, like you're the customer. So I'm going to say to you, okay, look, we've got your documents together. It looks like, you've shared with us the information that we need. Everything looks really favorable. At this point, this is the point where I need to have you take the car and get that independent mechanics check. And so I'm going to slide the sheet out to you, and I'm going to need you to take this and have somebody check it out and then bring it back with a signature on it.
And here's a list of, in not ones that we suggest, but alphabetical order of mechanics in the area.
If they need it. Like if you have a mechanic, and we downplay, so this doesn't have to be a certified mechanic. It just needs to be somebody you know and trust. It could be a friend or family member. It could be anybody that you know and trust that can inspect the car for you. She's got more experience than you do, we hope, than mechanical stuff. And you're going to take the car and get it checked out. And they're going to say, oh, I don't need to do that. Like, I trust you guys. My friend bought a car down here and he says, you guys are good. And I know it's got a warranty or whatever they might say. And so I would be prepared for that resistance. I am prepared because keep in mind, I did this as a manager for 3 years. I did it in my own dealership and taught people how to do it. And we've done it all over the country. So it's like, you expect they're going to resist. They're not going to want to do it. And they're going to say, well, I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that people are saying good things about us. We do certainly try to recondition the cars as well as we possibly can. We want you to be satisfied with it, but you don't understand. I'm still going to need a signature on this document before we can finalize the deal. So you've got a little time anyway. We're going to need to verify some stuff, and this will be a good opportunity for you to spend some more time in the car and make darn sure it's the right car for you. So why don't we do this? I'm going to be working on your documents, and we'll try to get your documents all lined up and ready to go. How about we set an appointment for you to take the car now, return in 45 minutes or whatever we
If you
pick.
need more time, just let
If
us
you
know.
need more time, it's
Yeah.
lunchtime. If you guys want to have lunch in the car and plan to be back here at 1:30,
Or
we can
not
do
in
that.
the
Give more
car,
time.
but take the car to lunch.
No, I'm fine with them taking the car to lunch. Like, I'm happy for them to take
Yeah.
ownership of the car.
Uh-huh.
They're basically pre-approved. I'm basically saying, let's treat it like it's your car. This is your opportunity to go drive it, make sure it feels good, and then let's find out. Let's get this thing to a mechanic. And so again, they're going to resist. They're going to resist, and so my approach will be, because I hear dealers and managers say we can't get customers to do it, and what I think is important to remember is by the time I'm sliding this form out to the customer, I think in most dealerships, and if you're listening in, let us know. Like, if I'm at a pre-approval stage and about to sign the contract, about to print the contracts, how long has the customer been at your dealership? On average, and I'm saying it's about an hour and 15 minutes, typically, at least. They've been
They've
there.
already done a test drive. They've already done all of the
The
application and the
we understand in
steps, and
digital age, there's more of that stuff
you've
coming in.
talked about the payment, and
Mhm.
you've like
Yeah,
we
negotiated the
have
deal.
negotiated the down payment, all
Mhm.
of that kind of. So you're ready to book,
Yeah.
or like final underwriting approval and book the deal.
Yeah, so
How
you
much
guys
time does
sound
that?
off. Our listeners, tell us at your dealership, how long is that typically? Like, we know what we see out there, but yeah, tell us if it's faster. And I would assume, let's treat this as like a walk-in. This is not somebody's web application where you've already got a lot of the stuff online. So again, so I think if we think about the customer as this invested in the process, is really my point. Customer is in a tough spot. Last car broke down, got repossessed, whatever. They really need a car right away. They've invested this time with you today. You're about to hand them the keys. Like you say, I'm about to print your contract and I'm this close to finalizing the deal for you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'm going to need from you. And so go take the car. This is your opportunity. And for somebody who's done this as long as I have, if I present you, Michelle, with this opportunity and you resist that, or you just, it's
Like, no, you know what? I'm in a hurry.
yeah.
Can we just get this finished? I will forego that.
So on my experienced ears, that sounds like a responsibility. And I think we need to recognize that when it happens, is like, is that what's happening here? The customer is, I'm giving them an opportunity.
They don't want to take ownership, potentially. Is that
Well,
what you're
or they
saying?
just want to rush. They want to
Okay.
get it done. So I can appreciate that they're in a rush, but I'm just telling them I need the time anyway. You're just going to be sitting here. You're going to be sitting here waiting for me. You might as well take the opportunity to drive the car some more, verify that it works well for you. I'm about to step into a 3 and 4 year relationship with this customer. So if I offer you the chance to take it, get it independently checked out, because I'm sitting over here as a dealer or salesperson, knowing that if there is a problem with this car that we missed, I'd like to know about it before we sign a contract. So maybe we missed something, and we obviously hope. And if, by the way, if you're seeing big problems come back on these mechanics check, it's an indication that we are missing some stuff, and we are, but the idea is, it's not the condition of the car. It's the customer's perception of the car and the customer's perception of whether or not you participated in sending them home in a car that's got problems. Now, are the cars perfect? No, of course, we're all in the business of financing used cars, so they're not going to be perfect. But the question is, what does the customer perceive, even if they have a warranty? So let's go ahead and jump over to that. Even if the customer's got a warranty, a week into the thing, they're having a oil leak, or their car's overheating. Great. Got a warranty, covers the cost of the repairs. Doesn't address my lack of confidence in this car, doesn't address my inconvenience factor because I can't drive it to work.
Or even feeling like, oh my gosh, they sold me a problem car.
Yeah, that's the perception piece that I'm trying to, we've all heard this. You sold me a lemon. You sold me a lemon. Well, would customers really be claiming that if I all but required them to take this car and get it independently checked out? I insisted that you take it to somebody besides us or somebody that we're not affiliated with. You choose.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm really trying to make sure that we contemplate here is that when we go to that step, when we press that hard and we get the customer to go do this thing, then it won't keep the car from breaking down. We could still have that oil leak and that overheating situation in a week. I think the big difference is that the customer's perception of us, because we created a level of goodwill, right? We basically forced that. And so now our ability to sit across the desk from the customer and work something out where they share in the responsibility. I'm going to say that again. They now share in the responsibility. They know that you didn't knowingly send them home in a problem car. Now, are they still upset? Sure, it's upsetting. They can't get to work. I mean, there's stuff, right? Life is difficult, and this is a difficult day, and it's frustrating. But they're going to know that you didn't knowingly send them home with a problem car. And so it's about ownership and
Yeah,
responsibility.
we've had a couple of really great comments and
Good.
points. And I wanted to let's start with Mark Jones, who, hi, Mark.
Yeah, Mark's
He
in
says,
it.
the resistance we normally get from the customer is the cost of paying for a third-party inspection.
Sure.
The down payment generally exhausts their saved monies.
Yeah.
Go, Jim.
So absolutely, Mark. And by the way, Mark is with a big operation in Texas. They do a good volume, and so he would know this quite well. And I think what we see, Mark, is that, and I guess what I'm trying to assert here is that if it were my dealership and the customer was going to have to pay to get the car independently checked out, maybe they're going to pay, whatever shop, they're going to have to pay $40 or whatever. I would come closer to adjusting the down payment from the customer and letting the customer pay, because again, we're about to step into a 4-year relationship. If I can create level of goodwill for another $75, I would happily pay $75.
Bring the receipt. We'll decrease it off of your down payment.
So it's just a suggestion here. I'm just saying it's that important to me. The value that I see in this, having done it and help dealers implement it, is like the value of creating that level of goodwill. Again, it doesn't keep the car from breaking down. What it does is it changes the nature of the dialogue when we're sitting with the customer, facing whatever we're facing in a week and 3 weeks and whatever that time frame is. Tommy Brandis, I texted him this morning to ask him if he was still doing the Rick Reeves mechanics check. They still offer it. He says we kind of, we don't force it in the way we used to, because basically, and forgive me, Tom, if I'm putting words in your mouth, you can chime in there and tell me. But basically, as I understood your text, you have a number of things that you do for them to show goodwill, recall and Carfax and all the stuff that you show the customer. And then you also, I think you said you do a 48-hour return policy, which is also good. It solves some of what I'm talking about. So having a 48-hour return policy can definitely help. It's just that when if a customer has the perception that the car was band-aided, that their mechanic tells them, 2 weeks in that the car was band-aided somehow, then, these are things that we would hope that this mechanics check would address some of that. So again, we're just trying to bring forward the idea that when we all but require, I mean, there can be, and we have a scenario where there can be a waiver, but it's like, if I'm the manager in that building, the customer's going to have to almost, fight me tooth and nail to get to that waiver. Like, it's just that important to me. I really would prefer to have the independent inspection. It means a lot to me, and it helps me to resolve problems in the future with this customer.
And when we, because we do have these forms that we will within Octane, and so our clients will put their logo and all of that on it. And the form that's like, I don't want to do it, is on across that form is this massive red block that says, I am knowingly foregoing doing this, and and so it's kind of like warning.
I think the phrasing we chose actually says, I have chosen to forego the mechanical, the
Yes.
independent mechanical
Yeah.
inspection. So it's like, I think we want to understand again, we know this doesn't solve the mechanical piece, but what it does is it creates that dialogue in a way that the customer should not be as upset with us. And if we do have somebody who's still upset, then we know we just got somebody unreasonable. And I've never really found it necessary. I know I've heard dealers say that they will go to the file and bring this thing out and show them customer. I think to me that's really going like it's unnecessary. It almost inflames the situation. I'm really just trying to. They know, they remember that they did that, and I might remind them that we did that. And
so another question, and it came across. I'm going to put it back up on the screen. This is from Brett Buick.
Okay.
And Brett's got
Morning,
a lot.
Brett.
Good morning, Brett. Brett's got a lot of experience being a dealer himself,
Sure.
and now he works for a company that they do some help in consulting and reinsurance. And he says, "What do you do when the shop gets the car apart? This is why most dealers avoid this, because the shop's trying to create a big RO."
I can't say that I've seen much of that. I
For
in fact,
this. So we're not
for
asking
this,
them to like, don't take it apart. This is like, is this something like when when you take it to your mechanic and because you're about ready to go on a long road trip?
Yeah.
What are the things that they check?
Yeah. And also, this is about clarity of communication for me. Like when I set that appointment for the customer to come back and sign their documents, it's a very clear, specific time. Like they know that. And so we'll downplay the thing about, it doesn't have to be. In fact, I've often used the phrasing, and we try to get as much of this, in consistent language as we can, where we said that you don't have to have a mechanic put it up on a lift, and it's up to you really how far you want to go. Just understand that for our purposes, we don't need that. We just want you to have somebody that you know and feel comfortable with. We want
Someone that
you
you trust.
Yeah, it's about trust and about they're independent.
Trust. Yeah.
And so now, how far they go is up to you. And so the other quick thing to be aware of about this, when I force that signature, like the customers again in a hurry, they're close to getting approved. They got to pick up their kids at 3:00. They're
use the car. Go pick up your kids.
Yeah,
Go
but
do
I'm
the
just
thing.
saying they're because of the urgency around that, and they want to get it finished up. It can happen that the customer will kind of say, I'll take the form, fine, I'll go get it done. And they may go back to their apartment complex and have somebody in the building, their neighbor to have the thing and sign the thing, throw some stuff on there and throw a signature on there. And that person may know less about cars than the customer does, but it still accomplishes what I'm trying to accomplish, which is I sent you out with this form. I gave you the opportunity to take it. I didn't knowingly send you home with a problem car. And so that's the thing that even if this customer had the friend at the apartment complex do it, we all missed something, then now I can sit with the customer, and 2 weeks down the line, as an example, and have a conversation that basically says, look, this is unfortunate. Obviously, it sounds like we missed something. And, we obviously can't drive the car for 2 weeks.
I wanted to bring that out. So what if they come back and there's something major that it's like, because there's a difference. You're going to get different types of lists.
Yeah.
If you get a list.
I'm kind of feeling like we need to save that for a future episode.
Yeah,
maybe cover that next
maybe.
Wednesday, because there's a ton of stuff around that, like how to address these when they come back, because they will come back with, like she said, they'll come back with a laundry list of stuff. They'll come back with a major thing, minor things. There's ways that we would recommend that you address those, but maybe we save that for a future episode.
Can we just like overall our primary advice to our clients is we don't do WEOs.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, that we advise our clients to get away from the practice of WEOs.
Yeah. We've got a lot of dealers out there that have big policy work being repairs after sale that they just chose to eat and kind of treat as goodwill. So with our clients, we recommend, and it can be done. It takes a level of discipline and commitment, and kind of building it into your business strategy from the beginning is to be able to kind of eliminate that. Like Michelle heard me go through training with a client recently where we said, this WEO form, you should go to tremendous effort to make sure every one of these WEO forms says nothing promised after delivery. So whatever needs to be done, it can be done before delivery.
In their packet.
Yeah. So there's like whatever that WEO form, if you just think about how life would be changed in a lot of the dealerships, if we made every WEO say nothing promised after delivery,
And
then
but see, here's the thing with that is that you as a dealer need to determine what is the most recon I'm willing to put into a car
Mhm.
and get those cars to that point. And then it's like beyond that, if it's not a, mechanical issue that's going to be part of this warranty or service contract or whatever, it's like, we're not promising anything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, that it's kind of as is,
right.
for WEOs.
Yeah. Or when you say as is, we're not doing any further repairs as a condition of the sale.
Yes.
So that's the thing, that it's a policy matter. And so we also talked about with this client recently, there's a big difference between the word can't and won't,
Yep.
right? Can
And
I?
use your words wisely. That's
Yeah.
when it's like, oh man,
Yep.
it's because there is a difference. It's like, yeah, I can, but
It's
I
one
won't do
thing.
this.
It's one thing to stand out, with a customer on the sales floor and say, we can't put new brake pads on that car. It's already, it's got 50% brake pads or whatever. We can't put new brake pads. And the customer's looking back there and say, you got 7 service back. I can see the 7 service bays back there in the back. What do you mean you can't? No, just use the word won't. We won't. So this is policy. This is about having discipline in the policy, and say we won't do any further repairs as a condition of the sale. If you want to choose a different car, I'm happy to go help you find a different car. But we've done all the conditioning that we're going to do to the cars that you see out here. And if it doesn't make you happy, then fine. And so this is also gets into just the headache factor. Like when you look at the headache factor of policy work and doing these repairs after sale, goodwill policy, call it what you want, that's just making life difficult. Scheduling a customer to come back in for brake work on Tuesday, and now they're stacked up in the service department and can't get it out, and now the customer's unhappy again. I'm like, we could have, now brakes might be a bad example. If it's a safety item, then obviously that says we should have caught that before it ever hit the lot.
And that's the different thing. It's like, oh, okay, this is something that's serious, and we can talk about that in a future episode, how you handle those.
So if you're struggling with this, I would just say, let's look at that. If we're struggling with a lot of policy work, or we're struggling with a lot of situations where repairs are being made as a condition of the sale, then let's recognize that as a very solvable problem. Like I see that, and if people don't have the tools and never been introduced to these ideas, then maybe it's not so simple to them. But it's like, to me, when I hear that, that's a very solvable thing. And so that's something you can bring the goodwill and policy work to an end. And there are very specific ways to do that. And you can still have the customer happy. There's nothing I'm suggesting here that means we're not going to have happy customers. We just, we get discipline, and we kind of have some rules around those things, and we can regulate that a lot better.
Great topic. And then, we may be bringing on, another episode on the morning show, or maybe we kind of discussed maybe doing a webinar or something that we can dive deeper into that, but we'll let you know, when we've decided what we're going to do in addition to what we've talked about today.
Good morning, Jesse Sellers. Thanks for tuning in if you're still there. And Mark Jones, we appreciate you tuning in from Texas.
Oh, and we had Jesse, we had Tyler, we had Bill, we had Mark, we had Brett, we had
wonderful
George
back there from Florida.
Tommy, of course. Tommy was like, hey, come to the regional town hall.
You guys, I think, can still comment. If you feel differently about this thing that we've shared, speak up. Tell me what you punch holes in this thing.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, just wanted to remind everybody, if you go to the BHPHnation.com, you can see our roadmap of the things that's going to be happening. And the Nation is one of those really big pieces.
You can hear the Jim and Michelle. And by the way, she's a cape wearing version of Michelle. So go check that out. It's a fun story.
When Anna Maria showed us that, I was like,
yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I think I should have one for the conferences. I should wear a cape at all the conferences.
I think
just because it's like, oh, you're the cape lady.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's where everybody thinks of you anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I am the cape
lady.
Yeah.
The superwoman. Yeah.
All right. So thanks so much for tuning in today. White Hat Wednesday. we've been talking today about how we can basically shift that mindset of the customer onto responsibility for their car.
Right.
So I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please feel free to send us your comments or questions. I've also posted up there, if you do need help and you've got a question about what we've talked about today, please feel free to reach out to us. You can text or call 903-816-0216. Or if there's something else that you would like some help with,
If you have a
feel free to
question
give
to
us
me
a
I
call.
can't answer, Michelle will know. So
Right. And then Jesse will get to that question about closing waivers
oh yeah, sure.
privately. So have yourself a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will be back on Friday. And again, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.